Well, hello and welcome to part 2 of our Season 1 selection box, featuring some selections from the box, which is Season 1 of this podcast. And I hope this will be a fun taster for those of you who missed Series 1 and a helpful opportunity to reminisce for those of you who were there for the inaugural series of this Christmas podcast. And we begin with a section from episode 8 of the first series where David McCullagh told us about some Christmases he spent in Malawi.
Christmas in Malawi is a wonderful thing. We live beside a local church, and in fact we had two local churches beside us, and as the run up to Christmas would come, you'd hear the choirs practice. And certainly whenever we were there for most of the 5 years, every year on a Tuesday evening, you would hear the choirs singing unaccompanied O Holy Night. Oh. And towards the end of our time in Malawi, there's a lot of power cuts. And so you'd be sitting in the dark with candlelight, and coming through the windows would be this angelic choir singing O Holy Night. And so music is a huge part of what happens at Christmas. Food is a huge part. Chicken would be the meal of choice for Christmas Day. Okay. And community's big. So folks gather in places of worship on Christmas Day to celebrate the birth of Jesus. Interestingly enough, preparations don't start until Christmas Eve. It's not a mad dash to the shops. It's only recently that you would have seen Christmas decorations appearing in some of the bigger supermarkets, but no one really worried about Christmas until Christmas Eve, and that was actually quite nice. There was no hype. You were lulled into Christmas, and it was lovely.
Well, next up we have a clip from episode 9, guest Michael Tinker. One of the questions on the last series was, what's your favourite non-religious Christmas song? And as Michael himself is a musician, that seemed like a good question to ask. So here's his answer, including his impression of a famous singer.
So again, I have a few, but I'm going to go Blue Christmas, Elvis. On a blue Christmas without you. So I've got that on vinyl, and the last couple of Christmases, so my youngest is very keen on Christmas. He's now 9, and he's been wanting to do Christmas for the past couple of months, and I've been trying to hold him off, but he found Heart Christmas Radio about a month ago, so he's been playing that. And so I've lent him the record, so he's playing that each night before going to bed. And in the mornings, though, once it's December, then we'll play it in the morning as we get up. We'll have a listen to a bit of Elvis Christmas. So it's become a little bit of a soundtrack to Christmas for me and my youngest particularly. But then it'll be followed closely by anything on the Charlie Brown Christmas record by Vince. I can never know how to say the guy's surname. Guaraldi. Anyway, he's the guy who did all the Charlie Brown stuff.
Yeah, because you're the third person. I don't know what order these episodes will go out in, but you're the third person to mention that album, and none of the people who've mentioned it can pronounce his name.
Well, it's one of these things that nobody's ever you won't have heard said, I suppose. Yeah. Apparently, I did hear at one point it's the best-selling jazz album of all time.
Is it? Wow, that's good.
And it is really good. There's some great tunes on there. Each Christmas I try and learn one of them, but I basically end up trying to learn the same one each Christmas on the piano. I'm not that much of a pianist, but I do try and learn it, and then by the next year I've forgotten how to play it, so I have to relearn it again. But it's a good album. Go get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, in episode 10 we chatted to Duncan Hollands, and in answer to the question about his least favourite Christmas decoration, he recounted a terrifying experience he had in the range. And this anecdote has haunted my dreams for many months since I first heard it.
Oh yeah, I was really struggling. Again, in my preparedness, 20 minutes before the podcast, I was racking my brains about your questions. And I thought, well, yeah, I don't have a least favourite Christmas decoration. They're all great. I mean, they're all assigned to say, celebrate, the King's alive, he's been born. How could that be least favourite? And then I remembered that last weekend we went for a little walk around the Range. You come across the Range?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
UK's answer to IKEA, amazingly full of things you might need one day, but we'll never need. And they have their Christmas decorations up. And our third, Alfie, is 3, and he loves a good set of lights. So we just thought we'd walk around the range as Sunday afternoon entertainment. And we walked into their Christmas section to be greeted by a 5-foot-tall, giant singing Santa robot. And the robot like slightly gyrates while crooning at you, probably Jingle Bell Rock or something like that, and staring deadpan past your face, and it's absolutely terrifying. It's the sort of thing I like. You can imagine a knife in its hand. It's night, you're in the range, in the dark, and the lights come on, and Santa starts singing before you get stabbed. So horrific, and that was probably my least favorite Christmas decoration ever. While we were then going around the range, some other customers were there with us, looking at the incredible cacophony of Christmas decorations, which were all making music and sending trains around and lights flashing and Ferris wheels. It was a crazy mix of sort of excitement and horror. And we're looking at one that's like £130 for a large Ferris wheel with a small train at the bottom. And he was looking at it with his wife, and they said, no, we can't get that one because we just bought the Santa. And I was like, wow, that's... And I said, you bought the Santa? And he was like, yeah, I love it. And I was like, it's terrifying. He said, yeah, I want to put a knife in it and freak my wife out. So there's alternative uses for Christmas decorations.
Well, continuing the decoration theme, we're now going to hear some words from Mark Broadway. His episode is best remembered for his comments on blue cheese and mince pies, but here's a clip where he talked about his least favourite Christmas decoration, a decoration that exists in his house, which he's been trying to get rid of, and as far as I'm aware, he has still not succeeded.
Yeah, I on the whole, I really like Christmas decorations, and I even really like the garish tinsel. The more the merrier. Absolutely love it. But my least favorite Christmas decoration is very specific, and so you have to excuse the sort of particularness of this. But there is one bauble in the world that I hate above all other baubles, and it is it belongs to my wife. It's one of the few possessions that we have which is not shared. It is a very carefully hand painted Dave Grohl bauble. You'll know Dave Grohl, the musician who I think he played drums for Nirvana in the 90s, and he was in another band. Was he Foo Fighters, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
the pedants will let us know. So
yeah, absolutely. He may also be in other bands. I don't know. But his visage, his face, appears, delicately and carefully and painstakingly and atrociously painted onto this garish green bauble, which was a gift or a curse, perhaps, given to my wife by one of her colleagues as part of a sort of Christmas hamper. She loves it, and so as part of my my willingness to die to self in the marriage, I see the bauble there upon the Christmas tree, taunting me, and. Yeah, honestly, if listeners have any suggestions how to rid my home, how to exercise my home of the Dave Grohl bauble, I'd be more than happy to hear suggestions.
Yeah, hopefully someone out there must be someone out there who's got some advice on that kind of situation.
Maybe someone wants it, and if they get in touch, I'll ask my wife to send it to them.
Well, back to music now, and here is episode 12 guest Caroline Taylor talking for a few minutes about her love of Dolly Parton, and I'm including this clip mainly because I know it will really annoy fellow season guest Jim Sayers, who has a particular dislike of Dolly Parton. So here's what Caroline had to say.
Dolly Parton has 2 Christmas albums.
2? Okay.
2. So she has one from the 80s, which is with Kenny Rogers, which is great. And then she released one, I think it was last year, it might have been the year before, called A Holly Dolly Christmas. The one from the 80s is Once Upon a Christmas, and that is the one that has my favourite Christmas song in, which is a song called With Bells On. I like songs, especially ones by Dolly Parton, that are kind of like weird and silly almost, and this one's like one of those because it's the length of like a normal song. It's got two very short verses and then just a chorus, which they apparently loved because they just sing it repeatedly. And like, I think it's within the first minute there's like a music break. And if you listen to any Dolly Parton songs, there's this thing that this great thing that she does, which is she rhymes words that don't actually rhyme by singing them in a very strong country accent to make them rhyme. And this is one of those songs, and it's great. The type of country music I like is very much like storytelling vibes, and that's what lots of her Christmas music is. Lots of it's very kind of cheesy Christmas, like Goodwill to All kind of. But she has some, so there's one on the same album of Kenny Rogers, which is Hard Candy Christmas, which is another one of my favourites, just because it's a Christmas song that's all about how she's finding life very difficult, but she's going to try and have a good Christmas, and then in the new year she might make lots of changes. And I think Christmas isn't always really happy, and it's nice to have a song which is kind of about that without it being all about like romantic love, which lots of Christmas songs are. And that's the other thing with Dolly Parton. Lots of her Christmas songs aren't about romantic love. Some of the ones are, especially the ones of Kenny Rogers, but lots of them aren't. So yeah, I really like some of the songs. And she also always includes a few like Christian songs on her albums. So the Christmas ones especially, some of them are really good.
In episode 13, we talked to Martin Pearson, and Martin ended his episode by giving us an anecdote involving his grandchildren, and this is helpful for any preachers still looking for a good Christmas sermon illustration this year. Here's what Martin told us.
So we were all gathered in the living room here. My son and daughter-in-law and the two English grandchildren were here in our lounge, and it was Christmas Eve. And the fire was going, and they'd put out a glass of something alcoholic for Father Christmas to drink, and there was a mince pie on the plate, and there was a carrot ready for Rudolph. And before they went off to bed, we managed to have a Zoom call with the New Zealand family. And my as she was at that time 5-year-old granddaughter said, "Oh, we're getting ready because Father Christmas is going to come." And the reply from New Zealand was, "What do you mean he's going to come? He's already been. Look, here's the mince pie that's half eaten. Here's the carrot that's been half eaten." And because of obviously the time delay, Father Christmas has already been. And it was just that sense that we too live in a world where Jesus has been, but he is to come. And in that moment of living out the who was and is to come, the kids' excitement of being in that moment, all three of those, Jesus who has already been, he's come and visited us, and we can look back and look at his teachings. Jesus who is with us now, but also Jesus who is to come.
Now, the last question last year for each episode was, who's your favourite person in the nativity account, not including Jesus? And most people said either Mary or Joseph. But there were some people who went with other options, and one of those was Peter Ould, who chose one of the non-human characters in the nativity account. Here's what he shared.
Not including Jesus. Okay, I'm going to go slightly left field then. On our Christmas tree, we have some very, we're kind of minimalistic in terms of the decorations that we have. Everything that we put on the tree has to have some kind of meaning. And I have a set of 4 archangels: Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel. And the 4 main archangels, 2 in the Bible, 1 in the Apocrypha, and 1 very well attested from sort of Jewish and Christian sources, represent different aspects of who Jesus is. So Gabriel, who I'm going to choose as my character, Gabriel is the proclamation of truth. And so he comes to Mary, and he comes to other people in the story, and he just says what is true. What's interesting is, if you think about when Gabriel meets Mary, and Mary's response to Gabriel isn't, people say, when he's talking about, well, how can I have a child because I'm a virgin. If you read it in the Greek, it's not kind of well, that makes no sense because I'm a virgin. It's kind of more, okay, I get it, but explain it to me. Right? What you're saying, I get, but just unpack it for me, as it were. And so Gabriel comes and he tells the truth, and he represents that side of Jesus. And so I'm going to choose Gabriel, because in the midst of all the celebration around Christmas and the joy and the family and the presents and the food apart from Brussels sprouts, which are an abomination unto the Lord, and all those kind of things. At the heart of it is the truth of who Jesus is and what he has done for us. So if we go back to Saviour's Day, which you didn't allow me, but I'm going to get in there anyway, right? What a wonderful chorus, right? Open your eyes on Saviour's Day. Don't look back or turn away. Life can be yours if you'll only stay. He is calling you on the Saviour's Day. I've got my goosebumps now that I said that. But this is Gabriel's message, right? Don't turn away. Listen to what I've got to say. Unto you is born a child who is Christ the Lord, who is the Saviour, who's the one who will sort out everything that is wrong in your life. Listen. So yeah, Gabriel. We should all be like Gabriel. We should speak the truth and point to Jesus.
Now we have a musical treat to close off today's selection box. At the end of Michael Tinker's episode, he gave us permission to use part of one of his Christmas tracks called The Heavenly Choir, brackets Funky Angels. And so here is another opportunity to hear that classic song.
Do not be afraid, we bring you good news that will cause great joy for the people. Down in David's town, a Saviour you will find. He is Christ the Lord of the people. He's the Messiah, anointed one, he is the King. He is the Lord of the universe. He's the Messiah, anointed one, he is the King. He is the Lord of the universe. We are the heavenly choir, getting down with a message for you. We are the heavenly choir, getting down with a message for you. How will they know? 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 Sing. How will they know? How will they know? We wanna know. How will they know? How will they know? Come on, let's how will they know? How will they know? How will they know? How will they know?
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!